Okay, in this video we're going to be looking at the poem Praise Song for My Mother by Grace Nichols. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually play, I've got a recording of Grace Nichols reading this poem, and I feel like that's a lot more effective than me reading it because obviously it's personal to her. So I'm going to play the recording of her reading it and then we'll have a chat about the poem itself. Should play in a second.
Praise song for my mother. You were water to me, deep and bold and fathoming. You were moon's eye to me, full and grained and mantling. You were sunrise to me, rise and warm and streaming. You were the fish's red gill to me, the flame tree spread to me, the crab's leg, the fried plantain smell, replenishing, replenishing. Go to your wide futures, you said.
Okay, so if we start off then by talking about the title and the form of the poem. So it's called Praise Song for My Mother. Now a praise song is a traditional African poetic form. It's not just a random title. The praise song is a traditional African poetic form in which the person eulogised, so a eulogy is a kind of dedication to a dead person, is compared to a variety of other things. So that's what a praise song is. And quite simply, it's directed towards her mother. So we know that this is going to be a kind of devotion to her mother, and so it is a very, very kind of beautiful and positive, poignant poem. Okay, so if we just start off from the top then. So, you were water to me, deep and bold and fathoming. So first of all, we've got this second person addressed to the mother, and the use of were, past tense, gives a sense that this is an elegiac poem, an elegy being a poem that's dedicated to a person who has died. So you were water to me. Now this is a metaphor, and we got in a praise song you have repeated metaphors with natural imagery, and the same is here. So you were water to me. Obviously we know that water is life-giving. Possibly one of the most crucial, definitely the most crucial element in terms of life for us. So we can see how important a mother is there. And then we've got these three adjectives: deep and bold and fathoming. So deep suggests a kind of depth of understanding. From probably both ways, her to her mother and her mother to her. Bold suggests strength and courage. That these things, this depth, this strength and courage, were almost sort of nourishing to the daughter, to Grace Nichols. And fathoming, if you fathom something, it suggests depth first of all, but also an understanding again. Perhaps empathy. And we know these are really important qualities for a mother to have: this strength, courage, this depth of understanding, this empathy. Okay, if we go on to the next stanza then, it mirrors that same structure. You were, second person, past tense, it's elegiac. Moon's eye to me. So now we're moving to the moon, and you're going to notice a kind of pattern here. The moon controls the movement of the tides. So we're kind of moving up one each time. So you were moon's eye to me, even larger than the water, even more important than the water, if that could ever be the case. We're kind of tricked into thinking that water is the most sort of poignant image, but actually we're going to then go even further to the moon. Pull and grained and mantling. Again, these three single adjectives, or actually they're not all adjectives. This one here is actually a verb, kind of pretending to be an adjective almost, kind of placed in the position of an adjective. There's a sense really that the word types don't matter, or the word types do matter. They don't need to make complete sense. We don't necessarily need to worry about how the words are arranged, other than they are arranged extremely simply between the word and the words themselves have a real great depth of meaning, these three adjectives or three words. So pull, again, suggests a kind of physical and emotional bond between the mother and the child, just like the moon pulls the tides. Grained suggests a depth. When you have grain, you have sort of a long period of time. So that suggests a kind of able to sort of withstand and strengthen through time. And then mantling is interesting. Now, if you're analysing this poem, it's always good to try and take as many meanings as you possibly can out of these words that have been used, because what Grace Nichols is trying to do is to show an incredible amount of depth to the relationship. So the more depth that we can find in the words, the better. Now, a mantling in the verb sense is kind of putting together, the opposite of dismantling. But a mantle can also be like a shawl. So perhaps we've got the idea of the mother, the moon, being this kind of protective cover, this shawl, the idea of it being an eye, kind of watchful and protective. So not only does it sort of help to put her together, not only does the mother help to kind of put her together to build her, also protects her. So that sense of, if you need me, I'll be there, but I'll make you who you are, but I'll also protect you in your times of need. The third stanza then, we've got this same structure. You were sunrise to me, this repetition of to me, rise and warm and streaming. So these are all kind of life-giving qualities. The idea of warmth, again, protection, nurture. Streaming, we can think of the streaming of the sunlight, which is the reference there. It's life-giving qualities. It's warmth, but also streaming, linking back to water again there. This constant reiteration of the depth of the mother's nourishment. Now, it's important to notice here these ing verbs: fathoming, mantling, streaming. We know that the mother is no longer alive because we've got this, it's a eulogy, it's elegiac poem, you were, you were, you were. But we've got these ing verbs, which suggests a kind of activeness. If I just pop that up here, ing. The mother is still active. The mother is still a vital part in Nichols' life. Okay, and then this final stanza kind of breaks the traditional form of a praise song, which should be these sort of three lines: you were, the metaphor, and then the adjectives. But here the form is broken, and that's really, really significant. And if you're hoping to get some higher marks, it's important to look at this structure, to look at the way that the form is broken, and consider why the poet might have done that. So again,